Well, in Heanor school days and Lost Lad, and probably several other books, I do refer to Allendale Road. We are now on Allendale Road, where I said the sun always shines. This is Hallett. This is Hallett School. This was the school which was 100% better than the misery of Monday Street. This is where I came alive, because the people here constituted a culture of kindness. And I can remember walking up here with one of my friends, and I had friends then. No friends at Monday Street, but I certainly had friends here. And there was it's gone now, but there was a beech tree with fresh green leaves, and this lad, his name was Malcolm, and he just looked at a leaf and he said, "Isn't that a nice colour?" And a little thing like that, it was just a little thing. Oh, it was a nice colour. It was the most wonderful place in the world, because this is the way to Hallett. Let me lead you on to Hallett School. Well, in keeping with modern situations, of course, now it's very well protected by fences. It wasn't then. In those days you could just walk in, whether it was Sunday or holidays or whatever, the school was always open. That classroom there, that was Mrs. Cook's classroom. It was a remedial class. I was put in that class because that's the sort of condition I was in when I went to Hallett. You can imagine I'd been savagely bullied to the point of self-destruction. I'd been with paedophiles, and that wasn't too bad. But now, Miss McLanning, who was the head mistress, I do believe that she had played a part. I can't prove it. I just have a feeling about it because of the way she spoke to me. She said, "Well, you're here now." She said, "You've had a bad time, but here you are." And this was her. I call her a gracious and kind headmistress. Not everybody agreed with that. I had a very angry letter from a woman who said that she was a teacher on the staff, and she said she would reduce me to tears. She said, "This is the woman that you think is so marvellous." So obviously we have our own take on people, but just in front of that gate there used to be a kind of an assembly room, and that is where we spent the last day of Hallett, listening to Adam Faith singing "From Now Until Forever." It was very emotional because I didn't want to leave this school. I did not want to leave Hallett. I wanted it to go on forever. I wanted it to go on forever. And just look at this tree. That's one of the trees that's still there. Those are the tennis courts. That is a survivor, that tree. And the copper beech. I talk about, in the book, I write about the copper beech. It's still there. I've not chopped it down, thank God for that. It's a wonderful school because the teachers were kind. There was no cruelty here. This was a culture of kindness. If going back to Monday Street's like looking at inside of a Archwich or a Belson, a hateful place, this is the place where everything was warm and good. Even the hymns here were better. Different hymns, obviously. We sang a hymn, a regular one, just as we had that horrible hymn at Monday Street. Miss McLanning liked a hymn which went something like, see if I can just tell you the words, I won't even try and sing it, but glad that I am alive, the sky is blue. I can't remember all the words, but one of the lines goes, after the sun the rain, after the rain the sun, and so on. And it was a hymn, and yet in my mind it was the sweetest sound, because I was so happy. When you've had utter misery and then you come to a place where people are kind to you. If I had left Heanor after Monday Street, I would hate the place. And I don't feel that way at all. We've just been to the marketplace. I've got fond memories of walking over that marketplace with my friends, what I used to say, gritty gait with my mates, butch walk, and these are the people that imprint you with these lads. There was sex that happened here. I've got to be very careful about this, but yes, there was sex, and I was well used to sex after all that I'd been through. But the sex was very private, and you never said a word, and that was the secret of it. I found out that if you can do it, you can have regular partners, and you don't say anything, and every time I had a choice. They chose, they were keen, and I was keen, and it happened. So, and it all ended in July 1960 when I had to leave Hallett. I was from Hallett from autumn 1958 until July 1960. And you can imagine the pop music of the day. Buddy Holly singing and all these great songs that we enjoyed. William Howard Secondary Modern School. Well, finally got round to the bit which I'm familiar with, but this field here all used to be allotments, and we used to have to do our gardening here, which was all right. I didn't mind that too much. And this is the part of Hallett which I think I'm going to recognise as we walk down here now. And it's obviously undergoing some big renovation at the moment. School, of course, is named after Howard, William and Mary Howard, the famous Heanor poets. It's a pity about all this renovation which is going on. I think, yes. I think if you could imagine that it used to be garden allotments here, now obviously some sort of a hard surface, some sort of tennis court or something, but that is as it was, and on the one side is was a changing room which of which I have very happy memories. And I'll say no more than that, in front of camera anyway. Right, okay, if we just go to, this was probably the main entrance. Where we, Allendale Road, for all my enthusiasm, it wasn't the main entrance, it was a sort of a back entrance. This, now, is where we had happy gatherings. Sometimes we used to arrive on bicycle. When I came on my bike, I always came through here, and the bicycles were just leaned up against the wall there somewhere. See all this, it's like a prison now with this. This is, of course, very sad that there has to be so much incredibly strict security. But So we leaned our bicycles up against the wall, lots of fun, very happy. And when school was over, it was over, but many of us didn't want to leave, so we used to hang about here. We used to play around and cycle about, and even remember the house of one of my friends up here. Used to live here somewhere. It was a great time. We are now looking at 32 Nelsons, which I think is, for me, the most important address in Heanor, because this was the home of Barry and Derrick Goose, twins, not identical twins. Birthday 16th of July 1945. I was born on the 12th of July. Barry died tragically in 1964, and it was a tumour on the brain. And it was a particularly poignant event for all of us because, well, it inspired Lost Lad. Lost Lad, the Lost Lad in Lost Lad was Barry Goose. In it I call him a different name, Forrester. I can't remember exactly what his first name was. Barry Forrester? I think I called him Barry Forrester. But anyway, that was very sad. Derrick lived on, and as an adult, years later when I wrote Lost Lad, I told him that I was inspired by my friendship with the Goostries. They had nothing. They were very poor, but what little they had, they were prepared to share. Yeah. I also made a point at, I was given the privilege of reading the eulogy at Derrick's funeral when he died. I think now that would be about 3-4 years ago now. And the church was packed, absolutely packed out. In fact, I made a joke that it was so packed that there wasn't much room for Derrick to be there. Anyway, they did get him in. And it was at the end of Scruffy Chicken, I actually reprinted the text of the eulogy that I gave for Derrick. So they're both dead now, but I knew him as Derrick as an adult. I came back, wrote Lost Lad, and I told him that I wanted to use the inspiration of his brother, and he was quite happy about that. He was one of the first Heanor people I told I was gay. I told him I was gay, and no problem at all with Derrick, but he did know that it was a very homophobic area around Heanor, as it was then anyway. And he knew that it's not a good idea for me to make that public, which I did, of course, in my campaigning. This is an edited eulogy which I wrote and spoke at the funeral of Derrick Goose on March the 7th, 2005. If you want to hear the full version, it's printed at the back of Scruffy Chicken. It's a privilege to have composed this tribute to Derrick Goose, who was better known to readers of Lost Lad as Danny Forrester. I'd like to thank his family for asking me to read it in front of the largest congregation Heanor Church has seen in 20 years. On Monday, July 16th, 1945, the first ever atomic bomb was exploded by the Americans in New Mexico. The flash, seen 250 miles away, cast a shadow over the lives of us all.
On that same day, nearer to home in Macclesfield, a less flashy event took place, the birth of Derrick and his twin brother Barry Goose, half an hour apart. Less flashy, perhaps, but it certainly had an impact on my life and, I suspect, greatly improved the lives of many people here today. A few years later, the Goose family moved to Nelson Street in Heanor. In my book, Heanor School Days, I wrote, "If you seek the source of magic which made the days of Hallett Secondary Modern School so special, I suggest you go to 32 Nelson Street. That Spartan dwelling, the modest home of Derrick and Barry, was diffused throughout with a quality of consideration, camaraderie, caring and kindness. A cheerful atmosphere was presided over by Mum, Nora, and stepfather, Christopher Dodsley. They had almost nothing, but they were prepared to share what little they had. I give thanks today for the friendship they shared and happiness they gave at a time when I needed it most. For almost the half-century which followed, Derrick, the surviving brother, a character of buoyant and uplifting personality, right up to the very end, could still work his magic on me. The Goosery charm defied analysis. That same charm inspired me to write 2 books about them 40 years later. Derrick Goosery was, quite simply, the best example of all the finest qualities of Heanorian youth, as we were during that wonderful period of 1958 to 1960. He was open, honest, sincere, good-natured, easygoing, and totally free from any of the artificial affectation which has so often infested the world in which I live. And, make no mistake, we did live in different worlds. Perhaps he's now reunited with his twin brother Barry, who, tragically, died young in 1964. Barry inspired the original Lost Lad in my book. I invested our collective grief into shaping his character, who I called Brian Forrester. In his school days, an earlier effort was actually dedicated to Barry Goosery. On page 3 I wrote, "One of our mates who was taken early." As school pals, Derrick and I were close. As adults, we were separated for many years by the Atlantic Ocean. In those years, he married Karen and leaves behind one much-loved daughter, Kaylee, who gave him 2 beautiful granddaughters. He also leaves behind many special friends, such as Julie. She told me that she'll always treasure some fantastic memories. His best friend was Mick Hancock. Friendship. Derrick had friends in abundance. It won't be the same in Derby County Supporters Bus when it makes its next journey to Pride Park. There'll be a yawning gap there, which won't easily be filled. And, of course, we've all heard wild accounts of much rejoicing and great jollity in the public houses of Heanor. He often told me about the fun he had with his mates, his adventures, the quiz nights and the competitions. Well, perhaps this is not quite the place in this church to relate such riotous details. In recent years, as adults, Derrick's cheerful support and loyalty never once wavered. He enthusiastically encouraged my work by attending every launch, every talk, and buying all 5 titles, all of them signed Dobber. That's the name they used to call me at Hallett School. When together, we regressed. We enjoyed being trapped in a time warp somewhere in the summer of 1960 at Hallett School. always in the role of two mischievous 15-year-olds, always reciting funny stories about grumpy old Mrs. Buxey. I can hear Derrick now. Hey, Dobber, we had a few good laughs, didn't we? Hey, we did that, Dobber. Yesterday, Derrick Goosetree, one of Heanor's most popular, one of Heanor's best, made our lives a little richer. Today, Heanor is a little poorer. Good night, dear friend. A bit of young Dobber died with you on February 23rd. He'll miss you.